One of the most underrated skills is being able to have a thoughtful and meaningful conversation with people in your life on a consistent basis. I used to think that these encounters happen by chance, but it's exciting to know that by utilizing a few intentional practices, we can have meaningful conversations on a more consistent basis. One of my life goals is to connect with people better, and if you desire that too, this video is for you. Today I'm going to share with you 5 simple social habits that are going to change the way you interact with people in your daily life. I've experienced firsthand the benefit of incorporating these simple habits into my daily life and the interactions I have on a daily basis, and I'm excited for you to incorporate them into your social routines as well. Without further ado, let's get into the first simple habit. Look in people's eyes. You've probably experienced somebody in your life, or maybe you're even guilty of it. I know I have been. Somebody in your life that doesn't look people in the eye when they're talking to them or when they're listening. They're just kind of always looking here, looking there, but they're never actually looking at you. There's a natural disconnect that happens when you're not looking somebody in the eye. So the goal would be when you're talking to look at the person you're talking to for 70% of the time. And when you're listening to look at the person for 90% of the time. I used to have too much of an emphasis on looking people in the eye, and I would look at people for 100% of the time and it would freak them out. I pulled back on that. Every once in a while, glance away, give the person a break from the eye contact, but it's 90%, which means you want to be maintaining good eye contact. Every time you drift away, you're letting that person think that you're not super interested in what they have to say. You're more interested in what's going on over there or what that person is doing over there. When you give them your undivided attention, that's when they actually begin to feel comfortable enough to open up and go deeper. And that is exactly what I've seen. Okay, now to the second one, ask follow-up questions. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where it is simply, I ask them how their day was or their week was. Oh, it was okay, it's doing fine. And then they ask me and I say, oh yeah, doing fine, pretty good. And then the conversation just ends in awkward silence and people just kind of go their ways. This is why I think follow-up questions are so great, because after they give that 1 or 2 sentence answer, instead of giving them the opportunity to come back and be like, oh, how's things going with you? I want to dig a little bit deeper into your life. I'll give them the opportunity a little bit later after they've answered this follow-up question to ask me how I'm doing. But I want to ask another question based on the information that they've provided me. So interestingly enough, in order to actually do this, you need to tap into one of our next habits, our third habit, which is actually listening to the person instead of thinking what you're going to say next. In order to actually ask a follow-up question, you need to be listening to hear what information they're providing you with. They're talking about their ski vacation. They're giving you all these details about, flights and hotels and experiences. What's a follow-up question that could actually dig a little bit deeper into their experience beyond just the details of what happened, maybe into how their personal experience was, how they navigated the missed flight or the delayed flight or their disappointment in their vacation being cut short. My introversion in a way has led me to want to make the conversations that I do have more meaningful. I don't love small talk. I don't love talking to people 24/7, but when I do enter the social sphere, enter a social space, I want those conversations to be meaningful. And part of the way we're going to do it, we're going to look in somebody's eye, we're going to ask them follow-up questions, and in order to do that, we're going to listen for key information that they're providing to us instead of just thinking about our witty reply or how we can add some information about, oh, they were talking about skiing and now I can tell them about my ski vacation. My priority is to dig deeper into their story before offering up my own story. Yes, I can volunteer some information about my own life and experiences that relate to them, and that could provide a good point of connection. And maybe in some circumstances I am going to do that, but first and foremost, my desire and intention is to dig deeper in what they have already provided me to communicate to them that they've really been heard. Don't get lost in the simplicity of these practices, because although 99% of the population are familiar with these ideas, only a few actually put them into practice. If you want to connect with people like no one else, you have to go above and beyond the effort and intention that most people put in. The fourth habit I've tried to incorporate into my social interactions is to try to make other people feel smart. Everybody loves to make themselves feel smart by volunteering the vast amount of knowledge they have, especially when it's brought up in a social context, but it's a lot harder to make and be intentional about making other people feel heard and feel like their intellect and their knowledge is valued. In some ways, the advice I'm about to give feels like we're going back to kindergarten, but it really is that simple. Simply saying, wow, that was a really good point, could be a game changer in your relationship with them. So I was homeschooled, so this analogy doesn't necessarily apply to me, but if you went to public school, you know the feeling of responding to a teacher's question, raising your hand, and getting it right. You're probably more likely to raise your hand again for the next question. That's the exact feeling that you want to give to the person you're talking to, or the person within the group that you're a part of. You want to affirm them and what they're saying so that they feel more comfortable about sharing further. Another way to make people feel smart, especially when you meet them, you ask them what they do for a living, and maybe they say something real fancy like an engineer or they're a doctor or whatever else. For me, as an online content creator, it's very easy for me to be like, wow, I could never do what you do. Oh, you're a smart guy. That goes a long way. You can immediately see the smile that comes to their face. They feel validated in their identity, in their career, and you immediately have a rapport. Now, in doing that, I don't want to be self-loathing, like, oh, I'm so dumb and I'm not, because that turns people away when all of a sudden you make a pity party for yourself. But in good fun, you can be, hey, oh, you must be smart. You're really capable at that. It sounds like I couldn't do that. That's just good-hearted camaraderie where you're just complimenting the person, and that's going to go a long way. Become a facilitator. If you are part of a group and you hear that Scott really loves archery, and you had a conversation 2 weeks ago with Jimmy, and Jimmy had mentioned how he always wanted to get into archery. You're having this conversation. All of a sudden, this is a perfect opportunity to be a facilitator. Bring another person in the conversation about a topic that they can both relate on. This is huge. This has worked for me multiple times, and it's just amazing to get those connections going that would never happen in the first place. And you have the opportunity to do it because now you have this information that both these people can relate and talk about this topic. It's great fun. Bonus tip. It's not about the question that you ask. A lot of people want to get that perfect question in order to facilitate that perfect conversation starter. It's not about that. It's about how curiously are you asking that question. Do you have genuine curiosity about the other person? These habits aren't for you to just play a part. It's for you to incorporate into actually who you are. Are you curious about the other person? Do you actually want to dig deeper into their life? You need to be asking yourself that, because if you're approaching these habits inauthentically, you're going to come off like a robot, and nobody likes a robot. Nobody wants to connect with a robot. But if you can genuinely be curious about that person's life, then you can actually begin to make a connection. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below with maybe a social habit that you've developed that you've found to be beneficial in your own life. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you next time.